Safety Committee meeting for November 14th to order. I'm Terry Goodwin, Chairman. If everybody will say who they are, we'll go around.
Rachel Hollins, Ward 5.
Mayor Jamie Clary.
Assistant Chief Jim Jones.
IT and Manager Mike Cook.
Scotty Bush, Hendersonville Fire.
Casey Lamar, PIO.
Assistant Fire Chief George Edwards.
BCS Division Chief Jamie Kostler.
Jesse Eckenroth, Chief of Operations.
Bob Garza, Ward 3.
Jana Garten, Ward 5.
Larry Garten.
Eddie Robinson, Ward 6.
Steve Rozak, Ward 5.
Karen Dixon, Ward 4.
City Attorney Lance Gray.
Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion approves. Do I have a motion to accept the October 10th meeting minutes?
So moved. Second.
Motion carries. Do we have anyone signed up for citizen comments?
No.
All right, reading of ordinance 2023-24, an ordinance amending Hendersonville Municipal Code Title 7, Chapter 4, Section 402 regarding the fireworks. Do I have a motion?
I so moved. Second.
Motion approves. Would you like to talk on that, Mayor?
Sure. So we had this at the board a couple weeks ago, and I felt like we had one amendment proposed that failed. We had another amendment proposed that passed. I felt like we probably had 7 votes to pass it, but I wanted to get greater agreement and possibly greater input from aldermen or from residents. I haven't heard anything from any residents since then. I have heard from some aldermen. Alderman Robertson mentioned that he might want to make a tweak to this, but I'm certainly open to ideas. Where this originated from, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, is families who have babies and dogs, and they asked that we do something about this. I certainly don't feel like I'm un-American for proposing this. I just think that I'm responding to residents.
I like the way that we left this. I've talked to some of the Vietnam veterans with the DVA, and what I got from them was there's a lot of veterans here that do have PTSD, and it's serious for them. A lot of them don't come out on the 4th of July or the 3rd in Hendersonville because of the fireworks. So I like where we left it at for that reason. And when we talk about, it may take people's rights away, if we restrict it at all, just by having the ordinance and not having it 365 days a year, or allowing them to shoot them 365 days a year, that would be restricting them.
I think that you make a really good point. I was really moved by Alderman Waters' speech about how he didn't fight so that we could restrict his liberties. But Mr. Waters is very fortunate that he doesn't have PTSD. And I didn't think about that impact on people until after our last meeting when a couple people had brought that up to me. And it is a very valid point that fireworks are a display of patriotism. I mean, not always, right? But they typically are. And if we're really being patriotic, then we need to protect our veterans as well. So I'm not really sure that the ordinance will change behavior. So the restrictions that are in here now for the 3rd and 4th and the 31st going into the morning on the 1st, it seems reasonable to me.
And one of the things I got from speaking to some of them with VBA is it really affects the combat wounded veterans. That's a lot of what I heard. And even, I talked to the president of AVBA, and she told me a story about a company that she used to work for. There was a shooting, and several of her employees were shot. And so she doesn't go out on New Year's Eve or the 4th of July because she has PTSD. Just hearing those go off, it reminds her of that time. And she said to me, I have rights too. We should protect her rights as well and not have to hear that.
So, I would move that we make a favorable recommendation.
To send it back to BOMA
We haven't heard your thoughts.
with, from the 3rd from 5 to 11, the 4th from 5 to 11, New Year's Eve, 10 a.m. until January 1st at 1 a.m. Is that how you want it
Well,
to go?
actually, I would like to rescind that because I know that Alderman Robertson would like to speak, or I think I know that.
Believe it or not, I really don't.
Okay.
You're good with the 3rd and the 4th, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything from citizens?
Anybody else?
Colgard doesn't like it, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's not voting.
my dog has a problem with it too, but, we drug him and he lives.
Would anybody like to make, you made a motion to send it back to BOMA the way it is?
With a positive
Positive
recommendation.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next thing on the agenda is review of the interlocal agreements with the volunteer fire departments. Who would like to take that? Mr. Eckenroth,
Sure.
Chief Bush, or Mayor Perry?
I guess we can just recap where we left off at the BOMA meeting. And so during the BOMA meeting, I'm just going to go straight from the minutes, is there was a motion by adding Exhibit A. And so the items that were talked about, discussed for Exhibit A are attached. So if we look at this first agreement, which is on page 11. This is for number 1. So the exhibits are different for number 1 station for Shackle Island. Under mutual aid, they're identical than under automatic aid. It talks about active shooter situations, and then it lists 2 churches. There's no schools in this area, and those 2 churches are listed because there are other jurisdictions that are closer to the other churches. So these are the churches that we are closest to. So if you go to page 15, which
Can I
is,
ask you a question on page 11?
sure.
Could we change active shooter to active killer?
What is the difference? I mean,
Big difference.
literally, I know the difference, but
What if they're not in there with a gun, but they're an active killing situation?
Like an arm.
oh,
What do y'all use active for that?
Vehicle,
We use any of those 3 terms: active threat, active shooter, active
Active
killer.
threat.
We treat them all the same.
so threat would be better.
Put all 3 in there.
are they interchangeable?
For us, they are on our response.
And Chief Bush, are they interchangeable from your?
I mean, if we catch wind of anything like that, we're gonna send the cavalry,
That's
just because it's a school or a church where people's potential loss of life is gonna be large. And so medical care is important. And so we would send probably, I'd say at least like we would do for a first alarm fire, 3 engine companies in both trucks.
Active threat would work for both of y'all better.
I think killer is kind of a harsh word, even though that's what they are. I think an active shooter or active threat, in my opinion, would be better. But again, whatever you folks want to call it.
Let's go with active threat if that's okay with everyone.
So if we go to page 15, the Exhibit A for Shackle Island, again, under A, mutual aid is the same. Under B, automatic aid has active shooter, which the mayor's amenable, we can make it active threat. It's actually what we use at City Hall, is active threat. And then it lists Beach and TW Hunter schools, and then it lists the churches that we are closest to. So it's not every church in that area, but there are some churches that the other jurisdictions are closer to, so we excluded those churches. So that's how Exhibit A was amended. There was a motion to remove item number 7, which talked about there would be no compensation, so that was removed. And then there was an end date put on it of November 30th. So that November 30th end date is incorporated. That is item number 10. So Chief Bush, Mayor Clary, and myself met with both volunteer fire departments. They have this latest version of the agreement. It was sent to them, and so it's under their review, and we have not heard back from them.
So our plan is to give them until November the 30th.
Yes, ma'am.
You have not heard back from either?
Not after the meeting, we did not. I think we got a pretty positive response from number one, and maybe neutral from Shackle Island. They needed some more time. They said to look at it and review the document, so they are reviewing it.
They both have boards that they have to take this to. They're similar to my situation. If somebody offered an agreement like that to us, I'd have to take it to you.
Did they say anything about, their board doesn't meet until, and they can't respond in time, or we're not aware of that being an obstacle?
I received no comments to the November 30th being an obstacle. Did you?
I told both of them that they probably would need to meet with their boards sooner than later. They would have the ability to reach out to the boards to try to do a special call meeting, because the mayor's request is to have something by the 30th or we stop going. And so to comply with that, we would like to expedite the process. So don't let any grass grow between your feet. Get with your boards and try to get an answer. And we have not heard anything back from either one of them. I do think that number one is going to be pretty compliant with it. I don't think they're going to have any issues, but at the end of the day, we don't use number one that much, and they don't use us that much. Shackle Island is who we respond to rather frequently outside the city. And we'll talk more about that. We can talk about it now, we can talk about it later, both, but it's not reciprocated. We don't use Shackle Island a whole lot. We did use them on a brush fire about 2 years ago. We used them on a tanker or a residential house fire when we had water supply issues about 4 years ago in the Rolling Hills area. And then we've used them when the tanker truck hit the truck on the gravel truck on the bypass, because there's no water supply out there. We brought them out there. That was before my tenure as chief. And we've used them when we had a water main break down at 1070, 1080 West Main. And there was no water supply in that area. So we thought it would be nice to have water in case an apartment fire caught. And that's really the only times we've used Shackle Island. We don't use them on a regular basis.
So is there, it sounds like we don't need to make any decisions right now. We'll just stay the course and wait to hear back.
Sure. It was just, the mayor offered for the public safety to review it after it was sent to both departments. So this is just part of that process. And BOMA will have the option to rescind it tonight as well. So there's no action needed. This has been sent to them. We can consider revising the word shooter to threat. Probably won't have too much of an impact, but it makes sense.
Okay. So we really don't have anything else to discuss until we know for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Hopefully.
it's clear November 30th, we will not go if we have not heard.
Yeah, and I will reach out to both departments after the meetings tonight to let them know if any action is taken and just to follow up with them.
Okay.
The November the 30th, is that a date our insurance provider provided us? Or is that an arbitrary number? we came up
That was the deadline the mayor put on it.
Yeah, I think the last time we met, I think that was sort of a
So-
date we came up with.
So right now, we're not covered when we go out there.
So our insurance provider today, we reached out with a few questions, and they said that they would cover us while we work on an agreement, while we work on an interlocal agreement. They did not give a date, but I think they've kind of turned the spigot off on everyone instantly, and so today they did tell us in writing that they would continue to cover us while we work on the interlocal agreement. Now they didn't give us a deadline for how long that could be. So we are following up with them to have an in-person meeting with the insurance company to work out some of these details.
And I don't know how many questions to ask here or wait till tonight. But a question, Chief Bush.
Yes, sir.
It's been brought up about insurance, us claiming on a fire insurance and getting something from the homeowner's insurance. Can you explain what that is?
Most policies, if you look into the fine print, which most people don't read into the fine print when they sign an insurance policy, including myself, but there are stipulations in your policy that would allow an agency to file an insurance claim for reimbursement for an incident at your property.
Do we do that for city residents?
Absolutely not.
Do we do that for calls in New Shackle?
We've not done it in the past. There used to be a soft verbal agreement that there would be some money exchanged, but to my knowledge, in my 37 years of being here, there's never been any money exchanged.
Do you know if the volunteer fire departments filed for insurance reimbursement?
I do not. I do know basically they do fundraising and then they take the donations from the 501c3 perspective from the county commission, and that's the money that they have. They do fundraisers, they go door to door, and then they just take whatever community members provide them.
Is there a detriment to the homeowner if we file for insurance?
It's not really a detriment, right? I mean, obviously, historically with insurance claims, you may get one snafu, a house fire, depending on how big the claim is. And then typically your insurance would go up so high, the homeowner is going to probably go look somewhere else. I don't know that I would call it a detriment, but it certainly could change the relationship between the homeowner and the insurance folks.
With the fact that we are planning that this board would want to file for insurance in the volunteer areas, would it need to be in these agreements?
I think that's more of a question for Mr. Ray, but I would say probably so, with the understanding that the volunteer agencies would know that we're going to pursue that opportunity in their jurisdiction. So there's no hidden agenda, so to speak, or anybody could use that as a political football against the city that we're trying to be deceitful in what we're doing.
I think that's a real important thing that I want to further explore tonight, because I think, state law says that these agreements have to be to the benefit of the city. And right now, I don't see these agreements benefiting the city. They benefit the county residents, non-city taxpayers, but they don't benefit the city. So claiming an insurance on a fire might make it, make the, what's the old saying? Teaspoon of sugar helps the medicine go down. That Mary Poppins. So that I want to explore that tonight. That option. I would like to see it included in these agreements, that we intend to file for insurance on fires that we respond to in the county.
I will say, if I can speak about the meeting that we had with Shackle Island. Number one of the things that Shackle Island pointed out was the fact that we had brought up the fact that we would seek reimbursement. And we didn't really say how or where, but we had it listed in there, and they took exception to that, saying that we don't have money. Well, but we hadn't got into that part. As I tried to tell them, that doesn't change how we operate. That'll be between the city and the insurance companies.
Thank you.
Do you know what insurance companies pay?
I do not. I mean, we can certainly start making some calls tomorrow and do some legwork to see we can do the top 5: Progressive, State Farm, Prudential.
A maximum benefit that they would pay for this type of.
So we talked about, Jesse and I had done some research on ISO, trying to figure out what does it mean when your ISO rating drops, right? And it's so speculative for insurance companies because it's based on your belongings as well. It's not just the structure, it's the structures and the contents as well. And so that's a difficult play. And I think that's probably the answer we're going to get. But if that's what you folks want me to do, I'll find somebody in the office tomorrow to start making those phone calls to see what's an average. We'll just get 4 or 5 percentages and see what they say. And then we'll average it out and come back and just say, hey, this is what we found out.
Just want to ask a question too. So off Jones Lane, there's a new development going in. It's not in the city.
Correct.
How many
Large homes.
Large homes, and that's going to be a direct relation to us, no question.
Norman's Farms is outside the city, and they had an incident out there a year and a half ago, and there's a retired LA County fire captain that lives in that subdivision, and he was less than impressed with the 17, 18-minute response time that was out there.
Yeah, that's called Oak Creek Estates, and there's gonna be 48 houses there.
Thank you. I pass it every Wednesday, but I didn't know how many houses were going in.
Yeah.
So I asked Timothy Witten and JP to put together a map of all the subdivisions outside the city of Hendersonville that are inside the Shackle Island Volunteer Fire Department District. It's 21.
Developments?
Yes.
See, when I think of volunteer fire department, I'm thinking the rural areas out there, older homes, but they're building a lot now.
That's a big
and that's-
problem.
It's so one thing I would like to try to do, and I've talked this over with Casey, with the PIO, is maybe once some of the dust settles with this, that maybe we do some kind of information, because like Forest Retreat, Center Point Road, you go down Center Point Road, the right-hand side of Center Point Road to a certain point, it's not in the city. The left-hand side across from those folks are in the city. Same thing for Forest Retreat, right? You got folks on the right-hand side that are not in the city, folks that are on the left-hand side that are in the city. And I don't truly know that folks in those communities understand what they have versus what a city resident has, if that makes sense to you.
I agree.
And so I think an opportunity, when the dust settles with this, would be a great opportunity for us as an agency and the PIO to get some information put out in these areas to say, if you call 911 and you live on this side of the street, this is what you're getting. Career EMS response. If you live on this side of the street, you're going to potentially get a volunteer agency. Maybe, maybe not, but you certainly will get an ambulance. And I can tell you, we have 3 of the ambulances crews in our stations now. They're truly concerned about the inability for assistance. I'll use a Center Point incident that was involving a police officer's father. Was wedged between the bed and a wall in cardiac arrest. And you had 2 people out there, and that was a female paramedic and their partner. And if we wouldn't have gone to that call, they would have never got the gentleman out of the house. That's the moral part, right? Again, I'm not trying to cloud or muddy the waters. That's the moral issues. But I think if we start informing people what you get versus what you don't get, I don't know that maybe that might open some eyes.
I think we also need to inform people about not where they live, because they know where they live, but a lot of people have a Hendersonville address, or where I live, a Gallatin address, and they really do not know who even picks up their trash, let alone who provides their fire service. And I think Cagesville and Shoot Lane is the same with the side of the road situation. So I think making a nice map that people can expand and see really well would be helpful, so that people can understand who's providing their services.
Those people in those new subdivisions may not have a clue.
I agree.
But what I am hearing from some of the residents out there, they don't want us in there.
That's correct.
I'm hearing that not only from some residents, not a lot, but some vocal, but I'm also hearing it from at least one commissioner, county commissioner.
Well, he's pretty vocal on
We don't want y'all.
He's
We don't want you. They
he's-
see this as a ploy to try to annex the county, and they don't want us in their area. So that's another thing that is sticking in my craw.
Well, it's the same thing. Like we went out there a year ago. The sheriff's office asked us to go out there and help them with an LPR camera, and they didn't have a truck to reach the actual camera. We went out to assist them with it. Well, the next thing I know, there's pictures on social media of our truck company working on that LPR camera with the SO's officers, and it was turned into, see, they're coming. They're trying to do everything they can to take over out here. And that's nothing further from the truth. We've never had that intent.
What's the truth got to do with anything?
It's not really relevant.
Anybody else on the interlocal agreement? We have a meeting, a bonus meeting before the cutoff, correct? Okay. Next is discussion of police chief recruitment. Mr. Eckenroth?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to give everyone an overview of the plan for the next few months. Chief Miller's done a great job with the police department while he's been here. His time is coming to an end, so it's a very, very important position that the city has. So I just wanted to go over the process. We're going to start that recruitment process soon. We have probably within the last year and a half, if you've seen with Public Works, we did an external recruitment. With administrative services, we did external recruitment, and it's just been something that maybe traditionally hasn't been done at this city, but we have implemented it just to get the best for the city. A lot of times that is an internal, sometimes it's not. So we want to do for all the department heads and police chiefs, fire chiefs, anyone who's a department head, we want to open it up for an external recruitment. So that's the process that we're going to go through with the police chief. I think what we're going to come down to is limit it initially to 6 candidates, and anyone at the PD who's a commander above can get an automatic interview. But we're just going to limit it to 6 for the first round. We're not going to do a typical, host, pay the rooms and room and board for folks who want to come up and be part of the process. They can do that if they want to be part. We will allow Zoom interviews for round 1, and then we'll do round 2 interviews if the mayor doesn't have someone he's comfortable with bringing to the board. We're going to have an interview panel with Mayor Clary and myself, Jason, Sarah, someone from the PD department, preferably a chief who's local. And then we want to bring someone else in from another public safety perspective to have on the panel. From that point, we'll also have a written skills test as well, in addition to the interview process that we have. So that'll be kind of like a round 2 where we say, hey, we give you a scenario, you go home, type up a memo, send it back to us, we'll evaluate that. And then the mayor will take the top candidate and make a recommendation to the board. So that's kind of how we've outlined that process to work. Just want to give everyone an update on that. We will start that relatively soon. I think March 15th or the middle of March is when Miller's stepping out. So that'll be his.
So when will this process start, and when will you have a chief in place?
We'd like to have at least a month of overlap, and depending on Chief Miller's kind of vacation and when he's going to take his vacation, I need to work those details out with him, and then we'll kind of just go in reverse order. We'll plan. It'll take probably a couple months to get a police chief, so we'll start that process. So just want to give everyone an update on that.
I just have a point of clarification. When you said that we would have a chief from PD, did you meant not HPD, but
Correct, right.
Okay.
So another agency where we have someone, that's largely a management role. So we want to have someone from an HR perspective. Mayor Clary and myself obviously want to be there, but we want to have public safety representation as well. And so having someone who's a police chief who understands what's required of a police chief, I think is important for the interview process. So we want to bring someone in from a neighboring agency that would be willing to sit on the panel with us. But not from HPD, correct?
Okay, I just didn't catch what you said for sure, so, okay. That all sounds good.
Do I have a motion
Do we need a motion?
to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn. Second.
Motion approved. Meeting is adjourned.
I'm not leaving, it hasn't lasted long enough.
Wait, we're taking